Hi, I'm Milton Rendell and welcome to Real News Friday. Now, interesting one, how did we finish 2021 and what will happen in 2022? Today, basically I'll give you some figures and give you some thoughts where I think 2022 is going to, and we'll work from there. Now, finishing off 2021, there was 8,511 properties on the market at the end of December, and the amount of rentals out there, 1,864, which is still very low numbers, numbers that we're sort of kind of used to at the minute, and I think the trends will continue in terms of the shortage of properties on the market and rentals. Now, one of the big ones in 2022, I think in the beginning, is still rentals. I think the trend will still continue, and there's two factors to that. One main one is that we have seen some return of investors to the marketplace, but we're also seeing a number of investors who have been in the market for a long time choosing to exit. So probably those who, and I've mentioned it before in previous videos, those are probably around 2018, 2019 who are thinking about selling and now going, okay, this is a good time to sell. So we've got properties coming to the market. Now that's good in one way and not so good in another way for future rentals. Why? Because rentals are being converted now into owner occupiers and not being replaced at this stage, not being replaced at the same rate. So we may still continue to see the shortage, which will still continue to drive rental prices up. So there is still talk of rentals going up. I think that is true, and I think that will continue in 2022. By how much, I don't know. Average, or the median price in West Australia for rentals at the moment is $445 per week. That was an increase of $5 per week in the last quarter, and I think we'll still see these trends continue. So for some tenants going into 2022 who probably took a lease sort of late 2019, early 2021, are going to see some pretty large leaps or bigger movements in their rentals. So there may be a bit of a tenant shock going into 2022, although I think that's already happening. In terms of sales, I think we'll continue as we have been. There is still a shortage in the market in terms of each suburb having an abundance. Some suburbs only have a few properties on the market. Guildford's a classic example of that, and we have seen some good movement in pricing. Around Midland, we have seen an increase in sales, certainly in the last 12 months, and particularly in the last 5 months. We have probably seen the most inquiry we have seen in this area for quite some time. Talking to the guys in the hills, interest still continues up there. I think there has been a lifestyle shift, particularly because of COVID, and people are now discovering they can work more from home. So some who are looking at lifestyles have certainly looked at the hills, and that certainly pushed that market along in different ways. Big factors going into 2022. One, as I already mentioned, there's a lot of investors who are now probably getting out of the market because they're seeing enough equity. Not because they think the market's poor or anything like that. It's just a time of their life. So I'm finding a lot of the owners of properties who are between 60 and 70 years of age are asking questions. And we're probably doing more appraisals about that type of property for those sorts of people who are now considering exiting the market. And as I said earlier, some of these rentals are now being sold and converted to owner occupiers, so that's obviously going to put more pressure into rentals. The other part is we may see in 2022 is the building industry may start to catch up in the second half. They're having trouble with a bit of a supply problem in terms of workforce and also some materials. So it has probably dragged in the second half of 2021, and probably that drag will continue into 2022. But in the second half of the year, we hope, or we will see, probably some of the finishing of homes, and that may take some easing of the current pressure. But I still think the builders will be under considerable pressure into 2022 and certainly into 2023. So that'll maintain our market to certain degrees. In terms of people ask me, oh, is it going up, whatever. It is a suburb by suburb situation. It's still a supply demand situation. Our supply is not as high as probably the public would like. And what we're doing is we are seeing multiple offers still occurring on properties. And I think that'll continue in the first half of the year as well. The only thing that may change some of this trend will be the following. Federal election is just around the corner. We'll see what promises are made and whether we have a change of government. There is talk that Labor are ahead. I'm not going to say which one is better or worse. All I'm saying is if that is the case and if people are feeling that way, some people will go into neutral until that's delivered. I don't think that'll occur, but again, it is something that's on the horizon, so we're probably looking at election around May. The other one that's probably, which is local to us, in the next week or so, we'll see where our state government's going. Obviously, COVID's is an issue throughout Australia. We've been fairly sheltered, and we all know that. But it has to come a stage that it'll start affecting us more here as people start moving into state, etc. We are still shielded at the moment. We can't be forever, so there may be some twists and turns as a byproduct of that. Having said all that, it hasn't affected the real estate on the East Coast, regardless of whether it's COVID or not COVID. It's continued to be quite positive, so that'll continue. So it's going to be a really interesting journey, I think, particularly in the first 6 months. I see the outcomes being still very good in terms of pricing. For landlords, I think certainly we've got to look at increasing the rents on the properties, getting the right returns back for our landlords. For those who are renting, I know it's not what you wanted to hear, but I think this will still continue. There's still high demand. We had one of the apartments here in the Catalyst building the other day, and we had 17 people register for to view the property. Many give up before they get there because they realise how many are doing it. But we're still getting multiple applicants on properties as well, and that's certainly worked in favour of the landlords. And I think we'll see a continuation of that. Probably the last thing I'd probably talk about just locally, I did see something on the news the other day in terms of some of the older buildings around Midland being protected, and the council's obviously identified those which were in the Midland Oval precinct, if you like to call it that, or the old Midland Oval. And I congratulate the Midland Historic Society, which instigated the initial register of those with the council. I know others have attempted to take the glory of that, but I congratulate them for that. I think it was a pretty common sense decision overall. The Midland Oval itself still needs to develop, but it's interesting and good to see that the fringe of the oval will be maintained, some of the historic value which is presented, and well done to the Shire for that decision. Anyway, all the best. Look forward to speaking to you next week. And if you want to check out anything else, go to realestateplus.com.au.